What up, Marsh Pod? We're recording this late on a Sunday night after a great weekend of SimWorld Hoops and an exciting one coming up. But we're actually not starting and talking SimWorld Prep right away. We're actually talking SimWorld U. First 4 days of the SimWorld U season underway. That update dropped earlier today through The Athletic. First and foremost, it's not mentioned there, but we should say this. This is a flowing opportunity, I guess, if you will, for us to talk and follow along to the SimWorld U season. Kentucky looks, as I've talked about previously, really good early on. Really excited for the December 16 matchup, Houston and Kentucky. Aji Feshbenle, the first real test for the Cougars in that one, going up against the Wildcats, should be a big one. That being said, make sure if there's any team, player, organization, whatever you want to call it, that you want to hear more about, there's obviously a lot of them. We've got a number of SimWorld Prep alumni in SimWorld U right now. So coaches, if you've got a former player, players, if you've got a former teammate that you guys want to hear and know about what's going on, drop it in the comments, DM, email, tweet at, I don't know. Let me know. We can ensure that this isn't a one-way conversation. That being said, huge week. Lorenzo Phenom was fantastic. I'm not reading too much into a game against Princeton. 50 points is incredible. 16 boards, pretty good. Obviously, at the college level, Michigan school record. But I'm not reading that 50 points against Princeton is suddenly Lorenzo Phenom is higher than Jamison Johnson, Tyson Simpson, Johnny Baldwin, insert big man that you've been infatuated with. I don't think he's there yet. It's a good start. It's not necessarily something that I'm going to be freaking out about. What I am a little concerned about is Virginia early on. They win their opener against Northern Colorado. Tyson Simpson, Johnny Baldwin don't play much. And Simpson was dominant, 8 minutes, 17 points. If we're not going to see more of them, the Cavaliers' ceiling in the ACC is limited. You know, Duke is going to be talented. UNC is going to be talented. The ACC is not going to be an opportunity for Virginia to just kind of walk through or waltz through. Miami's going to be serious with Dominic Bianco and Edgar Fernandez in the backcourt. So I'm not sure what's happening in Virginia. It's worth monitoring through 5 days of basketball. I think once we get to the ACC conference play time, we're going to start getting a little bit more answers, but that's a couple months down the road. For now, this is something worth monitoring. And I'll say it to that point to backtrack ever so slightly. We might be sporadic in our coverage right now of SimWorld U until conference tournament time or conference play time, because it's just so Michigan and Princeton. How are we reading into this, right? I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not looking at that game and suddenly saying Wolverines at number 22 are highly underranked. They need to be higher. You beat an Ivy League school that's not expected to make a push. What it tells me is that Princeton might not be a serious contender in the Ivy League, but are we diving into Ivy League hoops on this podcast? No, we're not. So I'm not bringing up too many concerns on that early on, but that's, I think, when we're going to start to see a lot of these things come along. One thing that's worth noting, Baylor, they beat UMBC 97-81. Baylor was previously, they still are, number 6 in the country. Aaron Payne did not play at all in that game. Aaron Payne had a pretty good SimWorld Prep's career. I think that's something that's worth watching. If we're talking about minutes being played by these guys, where does Aaron Payne fall in on the Baylor hierarchy? That could be of concern. A couple other notes from the early start to the season. And by the way, Payne then only played 2 minutes against South Alabama when Baylor went up against them. Baylor's off to a good start. 2-0. They're sitting at number 6 in the country. Are we going to start being concerned? No, we're not. But it's something that we've got to put the pulse on it. 2 big guards that had good performances kick off the season. Cooper King Cross did basically what we expected, 28-5 against UNLV for Maryland. I think Maryland is a serious contender in the Big Ten. I don't think that the Big Ten is a they've already got it. Like Indiana has struggled right off the bat in the Big Ten. Minnesota has been kind of up and down. Obviously, Michigan gets a big win, but who are we playing as? I think Maryland with Cooper Kingy-Cross and Keith Anthony have actually a very legitimate case to be made that they could be the victors out of that conference. Are they going to? Am I picking them? No, not necessarily, but it's a team that if Cooper Kingy-Cross can get some support, more so than he had when he was with the Washington Stars, I think that the Terrapins could be a very serious contender in the Big Ten, and then moving on to that into the national tournament. A couple other ones that are worth calling out for you. Steven Johnson Odom, 82-75 win for Penn State over Ohio, 11-14. He did basically what we'd expect him to do in a game like that. Where Penn State can fall in the Big Ten, I think, is up for debate as well. You've got Marcus Lofton there with SJO, but I think with SJO, what you're looking for is an expansion of his game beyond what it was previously, right? A rebounding lob threat for the New York Stars and Coach Tim Velarde. If that's all he's bringing at Penn State, I know he was a top 10 ranked guy for SimWorld Prep. I don't know that his ceiling elevates beyond where it's at now then, which I think is a mid to late first round pick. He's a really great rebounder. He's extremely athletic, but he kind of feels like a Derek Lively type of rookie. We're going to come in, he's going to get a lot of boards, he's going to score 10 to 14 points a game because he's just going to be on the receiving end of lob threats or of lobs. It's kind of what the Warriors expected of James Wiseman right off the bat, but they never got. That's really feels like the ceiling right now for SJO. Again, very early on into his season. And then this was in the bounce, but Ireland early. This is why guys go to some of these smaller schools. He never really got a chance at Rocky Mountain to showcase what he could do on the ball. Are we sitting here and saying a game against UNLV is the deciding factor? No, it's not, right? It's a dual-edged sword when guys go from a potential blue blood where they might be a role player to being a star or the focal point of an offense at a mid-major. I think Ireland Early, first and foremost, is a 2-year in college guy. I don't think he's coming out because his skill set, as scouts believe it, looking and projecting him to the next level, he's a 3-and-D wing. That's valuable. The problem is that skill set is starting to grow throughout basketball. And if you are just a three-point threat and a defensive wing, that's going to make you some money. It's not going to make you a one-and-done into college or from college to the association. Why? Because there's a lot of them. You're not at quite a dime a dozen, but it's getting to that point. And so for Ireland Early and any other recruit that potentially does or has gone to the mid-major route is that you can showcase yourself and build your opportunities on the ball. Now, there's a drawback to that, right? No one is going to look and say, wow, he cut up the Mountain West for New Mexico. And as it was not Cal State Northridge, not UNLV, that's coming down the line, but he cut up Mountain West. This is a top 5 guy. Now, but what it is like a Jalen Williams type of ceiling, right? Hey, he goes to a mid-major, showcases a lot of skills, there's some belief in it. I think Ireland Early, after 2, maybe 3 years at New Mexico, could be a late lottery pick. If what we've seen so far, that ability to score on the ball, create for himself, not just be a spot-up or off-ball shooter, if we see more of that, then I think Ireland Early is a lottery pick in 2 to 3 years. Not right now. He definitely needs more than a single season. I'd be shocked if he goes straight from New Mexico to the professional ranks. That's our SimWorld Prep. Like I said, if there's anybody that you're interested in knowing about, please let me know. This is a very open time of the season, right? You get conference matchups, right? You get Maryland against UNLV. You get Gonzaga going up against South Carolina. So you get some West Coast, some SEC hoops. Pac-12 versus Big Ten. Like, there's going to be a lot of big games. The Houston-Kentucky one, none bigger than it. But if there's a game team player that you're interested in, please let us know. And until we get and we really start seeing this, we're not going to just suddenly stop talking about all these storylines that are going on. But it helps us kind of inform all of you that are tuning in and have specific rooting interest in anyone. All right, SimWorld Prep time. We're 2 weeks in. Season technically, 10 days as we record this. And we've already had 2 players, publicly or privately, complain about scheme fit and on-ball opportunities. The first one, obviously, was DJ Davis with Best Coast Ballers. That one appears to be kind of settled. Best Coast has looked fine early on. They're 1-1. I don't think no one's raising up concerns. No one is sitting there and saying, hey, this team is bound for the bottom. A difficult 19-point loss to reigning Trays and then a 20-point win over Bay Area. What does that tell us? I think reigning Trays is going to be a really good basketball team. That's what it tells us. The second one, the most recent one, is the Yacht Club. And I think this is the most concerning, that you would have a player of De'Aaron Cruz's stature make the complaints that he did. And from every piece of reporting that I've seen and I understand is that he wasn't fully backed by the rest of the group. And let's just say this, De'Aaron Cruz played 16 minutes. A guy that came in and was told that he was going to be the focal point of an offense, and he's getting more minutes are being sent over to Trey Willis, and you're on par with Emmanuel Rollins. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those guys, but yeah, I can see that being being a frustrating factor. He was efficient, 4 of 7, 10 points in 16 minutes. I think there's a case to be made, first and foremost, that De'Aaron Cruz isn't completely wrong. Now, that's not me advocating for De'Aaron Cruz's approach to this. That's just saying, look, maybe he's not completely out of line to say, I was really getting it wrong, right? Let's call it Tyson Simpson, 17 points in 18 minutes. 8 minutes. You really think Tyson Simpson should be playing 8 minutes? Do we really think De'Aaron Cruz should only be playing 16? But what this makes me ask is, well, if you're coach last year, you made a big push for De'Aaron Cruz. You didn't make a big push in place of, I should say, you chose De'Aaron Cruz in many instances over Royce Anderson. Through 2 games, Royce Anderson has looked decent. 13 points, leads the team for the AT Aliens. His shot hasn't quite fallen, but it's small sample size at this point. But that was kind of the factor, right? Yeah, you end up with Xavier Pope, and Xavier Pope didn't have the best game shooting-wise, but the 5 boards, 5 assists, that's a positive. But that was kind of what it was. It was Cruz, and then all these other pieces kind of fell off. You no longer were pursuing him. Why then would you not really advocate to see what this was, right? Why would you not be playing Cruz more? If that was your calling card, that was your tentpole move of the offseason. Again, I'm not saying one was right, one was wrong. But it's puzzling to me that a coach would bring in a player of De'Aaron Cruz, use the money to bring him in, to be able to build your offense around him, and then not actually utilize him more than 16 minutes in a 1-point loss in which he wasn't great on the floor, -7, but he was scoring for you. Now, 1 game, we're not going to change anything, but we do have the suspension. Now, that's the roster construction standpoint of it. Where I'm kind of frustrated is that we're 2 weeks in and we've already got 2 16 or 17-year-olds complaining about scheme. I think the suspension decision is phenomenal by Coach Laster. I'm not surprised I wouldn't have been surprised, and I wouldn't have been too opposed had it been 2 or 3 games. Why? Because you're 17 years old, man. You're not Jordan Poole, even, and that's low end, right? You haven't done anything in the basketball world to be worthy of you sitting there saying, yeah, I need to be getting more minutes. I understand it. 16 minutes for a guy that's expected to be the number 1 guy isn't a lot. But we're too young to be having this conversation with anyone that's 16 or 17 years old. You have to at least get to college before we start pissing and moaning about our usage rate in basketball games. This was the pathway you chose. And as it always occurs in any relationship, maybe y'all should have had some type of conversation about what the minutes were going to be. Because clearly this ain't it. Everything was aired publicly by the article written by, I can't remember the outlet. That's what this has come down to. And that is, in my opinion, at the fault of the player. Because you are the one, 2 games into the regular season, complaining about your usage. This isn't SWBA. This isn't even college. you have no grounds to stand on. And any argument between coach and player, unless the player is a top 5 guy, I'm siding with the coach. Our big slate of SimWorld action this coming week. I'll be on the Tuesday broadcast, I believe. But AT Aliens Indy Stripes, that's at 8. Cascadia Best Coast, that's at 9. Game of the week is Wednesday. Beasts of the East, Philadelphia 11. Cutler kind of steadied himself. I'm excited for that one. 2 well-known coaches, 2 good programs. Philadelphia really trying to reposition themselves after, I would call it a disappointing season. They're 2-0 already. They've really looked really good in the moments in the 2 games they've played. So, opportunity for Beast to keep righting the ship. And the more Beast plays well, I think the more we learn how good Cooper Flagg and the Originators are. Because 11 Color looked really good in Game 2 for Beast of the East. It was a totally different man that showed up for opening night. And it's either Cooper Flagg being that good or first night just kind of getting to those guys. So, big slate. Holiday travel beginning for some. Next podcast you'll see will not be from the Star Wars background. So, let's get to it, man. SimWorld prep action coming up. Excited for it. And then a SimWorld U update coming again next Sunday with some recap on Monday. Talk to you then.